A little knowledge is a very dangerous thing.
And they're going to continue to do it until somebody finally stops them.
I know for a fact, you can look in their eyes and tell when somebody wants to kill you that they had that face, that stone cold face, that appearance.
I could feel the vibrations coming off of it, but there was no sound.
They're going to keep playing that hand, and I think the general public is going to see through it.
Everything's active, unbeknownst to most of the people on this planet.
They need to hand over the reins because it's not theirs. It's the property of the United States military and people.
Give us what you got. Give us this information. Let us make our own decision.
At a certain point, you have to call their bluff.
Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. Blake Cousins along with my brother Brent. We're going over incredible video and breaking news just in. The Knock. The non-official cover has broken his silence. You've heard us talk about it. Dr. Greer has spoken about this for months now. It is all happening within 72 hours, if not earlier. Buckle up, it's going to get crazy. And what we're looking at right now, the UFO phenomenon, it's crazy. Look at this green plasmic UFO in the night sky, unidentified, something spectacular, awe-inspiring. Guys, we want to get your comments. Give us a big thumbs up. Brent, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, Blake, these are the non-traditional UFOs. Again, we're looking at something kind of plasma green in color and this kind of halo around it. It looks organic. It looks alive. It doesn't look conventional. What's keeping this thing up in the sky? The big question is there propulsion behind this? Or is this being just floating in the air under some strange circumstance?
The circumstance when you come across these orbs, Brent, is what I want to know from the public. The people that are watching right now, have you seen the plasmic orbs? What about these green orbs? I've heard and spoken to many eyewitnesses that have come across with these orbs, these plasmic orbs in close proximity. And some of them say that they see these green textures to them. What do you think's behind it? That's what I want to know. Now, more videos just into Third Phase of Moon. Let's roll it. Incredible stuff of what looks to be, again, a huge plasmic sighting over a major city. Watch. All right, let's roll this once again. I want to get your thoughts right now in this live premiere. Give us a big thumbs up. What's going on in the city? We're going to listen. We're watching very closely to what you have to say in this chat tonight because we want to get your opinions. But Brent, what's your thoughts on this? This thing looks the size of a school bus moving across the city skyscrapers at night. And yeah, it's just streaming across the night sky. Brent?
Yeah, here we go again. It's not stopping. There's been new sightings over New Jersey. The drone issue hasn't stopped. Just some major media is not covering this. The story is kind of dead in the news, but still people are out there filming the anomaly, the phenomenon out there, especially the drone issue. What's up with that? Why? Maybe the president, it's happening in 5 days from now, and he says he's going to tell us what's really happening. Let's hold that to Mr. Trump when that happens. But right now we're looking at this plasmic orb glowing like the sun, traversing through the skies over a city. This is incredible new footage that just came in.
As I'm looking at this once again, it seems to have no means of propulsion whatsoever. It moves super fast. I'm trying to actually see if I can see a craft within it, but I'm just seeing pure energy. So whatever's behind this, it's unknown. Is it something coming in from another galaxy, another universe, or is it something within our own assets, private corporation, or something that's been here for millions of years? I want to get your opinions right now. We've got a new video coming in. Guys, take a close look at this. I think it's coming off from Brazil. We have people from around the world submitting videos. Let's just roll it right now.
¿Ah? Ahí mira el cielo. I don't know.
A massive cylindrical illuminated object just hovering in the sky the size of a Walmart. I'm thinking this thing is at least a football field sized craft. Is it one craft? It sure looks like that to me. It's no Starlink. This isn't any kind of drone. Conventional anyway. Brent, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is wild. We're looking at it just kind of going over the mountaintops, and this thing's at quite some distance. So that's why we're calculating the size, that this thing's massive. It's not, the cameraman has to zoom in and he see it just kind of maybe 1,000 feet to 500 feet off the ground, traversing slowly as it goes. And I agree with you, Blake, this is not Starlink. You wouldn't see it at that angle because the hemisphere and the density of the Earth's atmosphere is going to cloud it out. What we're seeing is crystal clear, and it's just shooting across the sky. I'm thinking like maybe about 10 miles out to 5 miles out from this position where this actually witness captured this.
Yeah, I'm digging this footage. I'm loving the illuminated, just the size of this thing. It's just mind-boggling. And let me tell you, I think a lot of things are going to be happening within the next 48 hours, maybe even less. We have a new whistleblower coming out. We'll see what he has to say. Dr. Greer's been talking about him. We just got off the phone with Dr. Stephen Greer with regards to the NOC, the non-official cover. And there he is. Let's just hear what Dr. Greer had to say earlier today, and you could watch the entire broadcast when we provide the link in the description. But watch this.
Intelligence, military, and corporate programs, and those guys that I've been meeting with for about almost 2 years now, 20 months, have decided to come forward publicly, identify themselves, and in a controlled release begin to give the information to the American people and the U.S. government. So this is a very complex program. It's now coming to a sort of a crescendo, and this is why I think we need to be talking with each other every week or so.
So let's go to the first question, which is going to be about human technology. What is the real capacity of human technology?
Right. Well, here, the biggest part of this story isn't the extraterrestrial part of it, ironically. That's secondary. And in fact, people who have been in these covert programs that are very disinformation oriented have wanted the public to believe we're not alone, but that there's a threat from outer space. And most of you who are familiar with my work know what Werner von Braun, through his spokesperson for the last 5 years of his life, Carol Rosin, said when he was dying, and in 1974 said the whole purpose of these covert programs, one of the big overarching purposes, is to be able to hoax a attack or an alien threat and present the extraterrestrial presence as a threat so that they could consolidate military power, industrial power, and also pivot the population through fear into realizing there's another enemy to fight. Now, when you're doing that, it's a long-term psychological warfare operation, a PSYOP. And the best way to do that is once they figured out and reverse engineered the extraterrestrial vehicles, the NHI craft, as they're calling them now, non-human intelligence craft. Those then began to be deployed in the late 1950s into operational craft that look like a UFO. For most people in the lay public, they're indistinguishable from a vehicle. And those have been used in deceptive operations known as false flag operations. And these include everything that's in the pop culture on the subject, human abductions by aliens, mutilations of cattle and humans, and all kinds of skullduggery. Now, we can prove, if you go to our archive, that this has been a CIA psyop for many, many decades. If you look at The Lost Century and some of the other documentaries we've done, we put that evidence in there. I'm not going to unpack all that right now. But the big story has always been the technology, because without the technology, they couldn't host the threat, which is completely false. Anybody with any understanding of this, and even members of Congress are saying this now, like Congressman Burchett and others, that if they were hostile, we would have been totally obliterated by now because of what we've been doing. And as soon as we detonated the first atomic weapons. So the real issue becomes, if they were hostile, what are we still doing? And why are we still here targeting them and knocking them out of the sky? And we'll get into this in a moment. It's because they're not hostile. They're here to help us and understand us, but they're waiting for us, humans, to grow up to a level of evolution where we can live peacefully on the planet, become a planet using advanced technology, i.e. not fossil fuels or solar or what have you, but very advanced technologies in physics, and then join them out in space eventually in an interplanetary society over the long haul, over hundreds and thousands of years. That's their objective. Now, the objective of covert programs has been to attack these objects, seize them, study how they work, what's called reverse engineering, where you take something and you take it apart, you study it and study it and study it, figure out how it works, and then rebuild it to the best of your ability. Those reverse engineering programs started in the 1940s, and they hit really major pay dirt, let's say, results in October of 1954 when they mastered gravity control. We have that information from the top scientists at the Naval Research Labs, the biggest Department of Defense labs in the world, who saw that document in, quote, the vault some years ago in the 1990s and informed us about that. So I think most of the problems we're going to run into with disclosure is that neither the president nor the Congress nor the general public and media understand what the technologies are that have been figured out already that can be used in deceptive and, malicious ways. So I think this is why we have to have this conversation now, because those systems, not only have they already been used to create the specter of a danger from outer space, and never mind Hollywood and the media and everything ufological being very terrifying to the general public. But I think that with this coming out, there's a big risk that they will start hitting buttons to make more and more false flag operations happen. And the only way they can get away with that is by the populace and our leaders being tricked. And the only way you can prevent people from being tricked is having the knowledge, the facts of what we actually have. So that's what I want to talk about for just a moment. Now imagine this, just put this in your paradigm. The week that the head of the Lockheed Skunk Works, the fabled director of that, Ben Rich, was passing away, he told a member of our team and a friend of mine, James Goodall, a very well-known aerospace historian, that we had figured all this out. This is now 1995, so this is 30 years ago. And he says, anything you can imagine and anything you've seen on Star Trek, we already have, and it's not at Area 51, it's out there in the desert with the Lockheed Skunk Works. Now, I've been at that facility, and I've been there in the last 15 months. So what he was saying was that we have figured this out, but the folks who have, let's say, an overarching desire to control the population through fear, through endless war, through control of the energy sector, this is key, they don't want the full truth out, they want part of the truth out. And they want the part that redounds to their benefit, that serves their agenda. This is why in 1999, I wrote a paper, which you can see on our website, drstephengreer.com, that states that this is the disclosure that serves secrecy. And the disclosure of this subject that serves the secret agenda, which is what that means, is a disclosure that would present a threat and where they could hoax a threat, and then that causes the world to unite sort of around a dystopic totalitarian military response, like the movie Independence Day. Go look at that. That's right out of CIA scripting, against the ETs. So now, how could they do that? They couldn't pull that off if they hadn't figured out how these objects work. I will tell you that from 1995 to now, the man-made craft, they're called ATs, Advanced Technology, or ARVs, Alien Reproduction Vehicles. They're used interchangeably. The euphemism used actually in the aerospace industry is just AT, an advanced technology, which of course is vague deliberately. And those craft at this point are, to even very trained eyes, virtually indistinguishable from an extraterrestrial vehicle or craft. So though that creates a big problem, because if we do not get those powerful interests under some kind of safe and peaceful control of those technologies, then those can be unleashed to stage, hoax, all kinds of problems on a number of fronts. So whatever you think, remember this, in context of the recent drone events, all kinds of events that have been happening, whatever you think humans have in these deep black programs, these illegal black programs, it's more and it's worse. Now, the good news, now let's talk about the other side of that coin. The good news is that this a controlled and safe release of that information and technology, which is the objective of this group of defectors and whistleblowers coming out in the next couple of days, is that we could transform the world economy and civilization to where we reach what's called a level 1 civilization that Michikaku talks about, where we're no longer damaging the environment. Within 20 years, there's no poverty on the planet. There's this big leap forward for all of humanity, not just the United States, but the United States would obviously lead that because we're the largest military and economic power on the planet. And it would also clean the environment. Visualize, if you will, like during COVID, when no one was going anywhere. And there were mountains in urban areas in the distance that you couldn't see for decades, and they were crystal clear because nobody was driving and there was no industrial output. But imagine full advanced technological civilization, but you have this wonderful technology that's pulling energy out of the fabric of the space around an object, what's called the quantum vacuum, or zero-point energy field. And that technology is safely deployed to run the planet, to run your house, to run your car, to run African villages, to run villages in the rainforest in the Amazon so they don't have to cut down the forest to make charcoal to cook their food. This would be, within 20 years, the biggest advancement in human history, in known recorded human history. Way more. There's nothing that comes close. But that's why it's also secret. It's, in other words, what I've been told by people in the national security apparatus who've been on the side of keeping this secret, and I've had many meetings like that, is that it's too good. And what that means is it's disruptive. You know, the internet was disruptive. Horse and buggies, were eliminated by cars and engines. Typewriters were replaced by keyboards and computer systems. There will be winners and there will be losers. But the real winner is all of humanity and the earth herself, because we'll have a sustainable civilization within our, well, I'm no just spring chicken, but perhaps even within my lifetime, where it won't even resemble the way the world is today. So it's a very forward-looking, positive event happening. But there are also these landmines out there. In other words, very powerful interests who don't want to have us go into that future could start disrupting that future. And this is why, in a moment, we'll talk about what else needs to be done by the president, the Congress, and the heads of states of other countries. And that's going to be a key part of what we'll be discussing over the coming weeks, months, and years on this podcast. You know, one of the thing that tilted my life's axis was December 13th, 1993, when I had a prolonged meeting with the director of the CIA, for Bill Clinton, R. James Woolsey, a meeting he subsequently denied happening because, well, my commentary on that is you don't want to hear it. But, you know, it's Washington, and it's lawyers and politicians and what have you. And everybody knows what that means. So, but as a consequence of that personally, what I realized is that the constitutional government of we the people, its president, most of its elected officials, except for a few devils that are in there who are on the payroll of this covert group, really know nothing about the subject. In fact, I would say that all of you who've seen the documentary Unacknowledged knows more than most of the members of Congress and most people in the White House on this subject. And that is a tragedy, and it's dangerous. So the organization that deals with this is not just U.S. It is actually a transnational criminal organization that's highly covert. And that is a fact. Not a conspiracy theory, it's a fact and been proven in any court of law. And I want to remind people, one of our early Disclosure Project witnesses who appeared at the National Press Club in 2001, almost 24 years ago, right before 9/11, is a man named Carl Wolf, who is since deceased. But he, in 1968, was at Langley Air Force Base at a national security agency compartmented operation, where they were analyzing the early digital images coming back from the moon, from the lunar orbiter that went around the moon to map it before we landed a year later in '69. And he was called in to repair some equipment in this compartmented operation. He walks in, and you look at his testimony. It's up on our archive, our website, dpiarchive.com. And he says it was like a United Nations. There was people from all over the world in there, China, other countries that you'd say, oh, those are our enemies. No, they were in a compartmented operation dealing with this.
All right, coming in from Dr. Stephen Greer, his statements, you could hear more right now on his official channel. I'm going to be supplying the original link below. Take a look. He's got more updates tomorrow, and we're going to be sharing it right here at Third Phase of Moon. We're going to be with him in his second episode podcast with more breaking news. So buckle up for that. Make sure you subscribe. Everybody, keep your eyes on the skies. Be safe. Blake Cousins. We'll see you next time.
We'll check y'all out later.
You don't know that at the very top, that whole project is being run illegally.
These are brand new witnesses, and they've got bombshell information to talk about.
These technologies are unsanctioned. They are illegal operations, and this can be proven in any court of law.
It's like, wow, nobody's coming after us. We're going to do this until we can get away with it.
They would have so much control over everything if they had that.
If this information was all released, it could fall into the wrong hands.
They're using security as a cover for illicit or illegal or even treasonous activities.
The members of Congress didn't have the detailed information of the precise location.
Where they keep the bodies, the craft, the debris, all the evidence that we've been searching for the last 80 years.
He knew how to keep a secret. Secrets were his stock and trade.
They're literally making their own money to fund their own projects.
We have a source currently in the deep black world.
It doesn't matter if you're president of the United States, you're not going to talk about that.
There was this large monolithic slab, looked like it was elevated off of the ground.
It is traumatic.
Look, this is the most top secret shit you've ever heard of.